paper. Marcel made a lovely crab bisque with croutons, which was old-fashioned, but Port Lowdy was that sort of place. This suited Tressa. She painted old-fashioned pictures that weren't popular with the art market, but they made her happy. Penny Stanhope, the postmistress, waved as she turned over the closed sign on the door. The post office also served as the bank, the local passport office, and the insurance office. Penny sold chutneys and jams made by some of the local women, and questionable shellcraft with googly eyes, and the occasional diamante for pizzazz. Port Lowdy didn't really do pizzazz, so the shellcraft didn't sell, but the jams were popular. The bakery with its striped red awning was already open, the Cornish pasties just out of the oven, and the scones rising for morning tea. There was a small garden with a white picket fence, out the side of the bakery, where tourists could eat their Cornish cream tea under the apple trees and watch the passing foot traffic. Tressa pedalled up the small hill and came to the front of the little office that was both the headquarters of the Port Lowdy Occurrence and the local car rental in the summer. She pushed open the door, trying to balance the bike and the heavy wood door. She took off her bicycle helmet and felt her curls spring outwards in protest after the short ride. Tressa's black curls had a life of their own. Her brother didn't get them. In fact, no one knew where the curly hair gene had come from in the Buckland family. Everyone else was blonde and brown-eyed, but Tressa had dark hair and blue eyes. As a child, she used to pore over the family tree in the old family Bible on the bookshelf. Her curls were from ancestors unknown, and it always gave Tressa a thrill to think of the relative who bequeathed the hair to her, generations later, like a charm. Her skill for drawing was also an unclaimed talent. No one could see where it came from in the family tree. Tressa cherished these differences, because they made her special, and God knows it was hard to be special in her family. "Anything for a peaceful life," her boss George Fox said, and she agreed. George was the owner and editor of the Port Lowdy Occurrence. It was just the two of them working at the Occurrence, but the paper made enough to pay her wage and keep George in whiskey, and it funded his passion for antiques. They were busy enough through advertising from the fishing and holiday community, and George had business all over Cornwall, with the car rental in the summer and numerous other fingers in other Cornish pasties. Tressa was grateful for her job, because it allowed her to paint. She was an artist, a properly trained one at that, her mother would tell you if you asked, having gone to art school in Plymouth. Tressa sold her paintings and prints of the Cornish sea from a website under the pseudonym The Cornish Mermaid. The sales topped up her income to pay for living expenses and canvas, and everything else was cream. Her mother, Wendy, said that Tressa was the oldest 26-year-old in the UK. She spent her money on not much else besides her art. All her friends were still drinking and dancing all night, but Tressa was a loner, not so much by choice as by circumstance. She was shy, and she had struggled to stay in contact with friends from school or university, all of whom seemed to be getting engaged or married now. A few of them even had babies. She sent little paintings off to her friends, celebrating their news, and drew cards for the babies and posted them to faraway places. But no one wanted to come to Port Lowdy and stay at Mermaid Terrace. If Tressa ever pulled an all-nighter, it was in front of her easel, waiting for the moon to slide behind the clouds when it was the sun's turn to take over. "How will you ever meet someone?" her mother asked. "You'll never find anyone there. Come on home and find love. We will buy you a place, and you can rent out your house there and come back to it later on." Wendy kept trying to coax her daughter to return to St. Ives, but Tressa didn't believe in finding love. Love wasn't lost, so why should she go looking for it? It would come if it was ready, and if love never found her, she had her cat and her art, and that was enough, she told herself. There was no one in Port Lowdy worth swinging hands with. She knew nearly everyone in the village, and there were no eligible men under the age of 60. Older men had never been her thing. There was another artist she'd had a thing with for a while, who she used to see in St. Ives, but it wasn't serious and they both knew it. She didn't want to live there and he didn't want to come to Port Lowdy. It was unspoken that their connection was merely physical and a mutual appreciation of art and nothing more. He was nice enough, but not enough to want more from him. The sound of her boss, George, talking on the phone welcomed Tressa to another day at work as she put her bike into the